Full disclosure, the voice you are listening to now is artificially generated, brought to you by satisphonic.com. See the link in the description for more details. What instantly ruins a hamburger for you? More of a meatball than a patty. I see you've had my dad's bulgars. I laughed way too loud at bulgars. Never hear that before, Naya. What is it about dads and their absolute tennis ball burgers? Also, my family chronically underseasons everything, but then busts out the spice rack for a hamburger. It shouldn't need a bunch of random herb spices. It's a hamburger, not a meatloaf. Just adding yet another voice to the dad ball burger chorus here. My file loves burgers and makes them for us every time we come over. My man means well, but he doesn't put a dimple in the middle of the burgers, required for when you're grilling them, so they don't puff up into a ball, and also doesn't salt the damn patty. So the result is, we get these glow burgers that don't even reach the side of the bun, and that have zero flavor aside from the toppings we put on them. But every time he bites into it, he gives this loud moan, like it's a sin to even taste something so delicious. I'm happy for the guy, but I just don't get it. But every time he bites into it, he gives this loud moan like it's a sin to even taste something so delicious. You just reminded me my brother-in-law does these subtle little moans when he eats. I'm seeing him this weekend, and it's a memory I wanted to repress. But I don't think I'll be able to moan back louder, more sensual, assert awkward burger-eating dominance. But they said no mayo. I think there's some magic where suburban dads think anything off a grill tastes divine. I don't get it either. Side note, as someone who read my share of Smallville fanfics back in the day, I love your username. Assuming everything is fresh and nothing is spoiled, a cold patty towering height sogginess. This person, burgers. Just actually orgasm, emo. Abnormal height of burger. That shit is for looking, not eating. Big burgers should be wide, not tall. There was a place near where I grew up, Coles Drive-In, Perry Ut, that did this. They had a 1 lb burger, but it was the same thickness as their normal burger, just much larger. It had a giant bun to go with it. You could actually eat it or share it or whatever, and it still worked like a burger should. There's a place where I work called Jim's Burger Haven that uses this mentality. Damn good burgers that are 6 inches wide. Have you ever gotten such a tall burger that your jaw cramps when you try to put it in your mouth? This, if it's too big to fit in your mouth, or you have to deconstruct it in order to eat it, it's not a burger. When I go to take a big old bite and the whole thing just ejects out the back. Some restaurants with tall burgers put a pick in the middle to maintain shape. Many people remove this stick before eating the burger. I tend to eat around the stick to stop patty escape. Here's how I hacked burgers using the pick. Cut the burger in half near the pick, using it to stabilize the burger while you cut. Leave the pick in one half and eat the other. When done with the first half, remove the pick and eat the second half. This is the way. It helps so much to keep things together and stable, and you avoid the fast, panic eating that happens to many when everything starts to fall apart and you want to hawk it down before you're relegated to eating your burger droppings like a salad. Even if the first half falls apart, you can take a breather and reset before eating the second half. Misjudge when to remove it though, and you get a pick in the roof of your mouth. How tall is your mouth, Lo? They eat how Shaggy eats his 3-foot tall sandwiches. Unhinged jaw, slide entire meal into mouth. God, this. I start to panic eat when my sandwiches start falling apart, and it makes for a truly unenjoyable experience. No one wants a messy buried fucking tomatoes. Mayo or any sauce makes it slip out easier. It's not called sandwich lube for nothing. Soggy bun. Absolutely awful when the bun loses all structure halfway through and your hamburger disintegrates in your hands and you're left with a pile of slope. So gross. 100% agree, and a good burger ain't cheap. They used to be, until gourmet burgers became popular, and now we're all paying $20 for them. I know the words you say, but I'm not sure I understand them. And untoasted buns, such an amateur move. When you're chewing and the meat has a hard bit in it, like a piece of bone or something. Wow! Thanks for the awards. There's nothing worse than finding a hard thing in soft food or a soft thing in hard food. There's nothing worse than having to reevaluate your chew intensity level when an emergency dentist appointment becomes a potential threat. Had my first reality check at nearly 40. Pretty good teeth. I was snacking on some pretzels, put some in my mouth, chewed, felt a hard crunch not normal for pretzels. In tandem, I hear a pop and sharp tear-jerking pain in my mouth. I cracked a molar in half. 2 years later, I still chew everything with caution. Consciously chewing everything I eat is not fun. Yeah, I once found a chipped piece of plastic spatula or mayo container or something like that in my burger. I'm glad I bit at it with my front teeth, and it was orientated horizontally, so I bit the flat part. It could have ended much worse. My locals started bagging the burgers upside down. That was a game changer. A surprisingly agile dog. I had a Chihuahua once who did some Metal Gear Solid shit and literally got up on the table and made off with an 8's New York strip without anyone noticing. Until we sat down to eat and 6 people were looking at 5 steaks like, did we really do this? And then my dad was like, hey, where's the dog? Lol. My mom loved putting dehydrated onions in scrambled eggs when I was a kid, but I hated the random crunch in my eggs. Being so young, I didn't know how to fully articulate why, so I just said I didn't like how it tasted, but you can't taste it. But you said, but you can't taste it, which is such a bullshit response. If it's not adding flavor to it, why put it in? You could just sprinkle in some onion powder and get a similar result without the random phantom bug crunch. Gristle, or a little bone chip in the meat. Instant gag. I have a weird thing about unexpected textures in my food. Throws the whole dish off. Those stupid TikTok cheese sauces. I was gonna say excessive cheese. The amount of times I've seen a gallon of melted cheese explode outpoured over is just. Some cheese is fine. It's the excess that's not needed or wanted. I hate anything poured on top of the buns. If I can't hold it and eat it semi-cleanly, then it's no longer a burger, it's a casserole. The price for a Fuking sandwich that until recently was one of the cheapest things to eat. I recently saw a headline that Burger King is trying to get people to eat the Whopper again. How about not making it $8? I'm not saying it has to be 99, like it was from time to time when I was a kid, but $4. $5 would get me to go more often. Oh, you mean you don't like paying $30 for some bread, condiments, lettuce, tomato, and a cheap hunk of ground beef? Bun breaking apart for me is one. I'll say this now. The height of burgers are a joke. I'd rather a regular burger height and the circumference of the burger being bigger. The bun to burger ratio is important. I also prefer thin patties better than one thick patty and much better than 2 big ones. I like the toughness of the burger rather than it feels soft to the bite. I've had some expensive burgers that have not been as good as cheap-made van burgers purely because they were soft and mushy rather than tougher texture. Oh, you mean you don't like paying $30 for some bread, condiments, lettuce, tomato, and a cheap hunk of ground beef? Any of these, order isn't important. 1. Overcooked meat. 2. Vegetables so wet that bread looks like a sponge. 3. Excessive amount of salt. Fat ass tomatoes. This. I love tomatoes. But I loathe lazy food preparers who slice them into massive slabs. Get a decent knife. Same goes for massive chunks of tomato in a salad. Poor construction. When the patty flies out the other side, stick everything together with blobs of sauce. Miracle, whip, or sweet pickles. Sweet anything, really. I know I'm in the 1% here because a lot of people think I'm crazy, but I can't stand pickles on burgers. Not a fan of pickles in general, really. Big, thick slices of raw onions ring. Brioche buns. I just find them too sweet in a really unpleasant way. I know it's a personal preference for many, but just onions. All the other things listed here I can deal with. But onions, as soon as I get that crunch, even if it's a half crunch, I'm on auto response and I just open up and can't take another bite. Raw onions is a hard pass. I like sorted onions, but not on burgers. Really, anything where it's more like a condiment or the main sauce component for like steaks or something.